For today, we have presentation by Corrado Marcenò. Corrado is a very important member of our working group for several years. And when I asked him for the presentation, I knew that Corrado is expert in Mediterranean vegetation, especially in coastal vegetation. So I thought it will be something about the coastal vegetation. And I was so surprised to have such a new topic. So I am really curious. And Corrado, we all are really looking forward to see your talk. So it's your turn.
Okay, thank you, Denka, for the presentation. Yes, I'm working at the Department of Masaryk University, Brno. So, and today I will talk about data, biodiversity data that are stored in social network, in particular in Facebook group. This project is in collaboration with Italian people and from Czech Republic and also Catalonia. So during the year have been several initiatives at the continental and global scale to create a repository of biodiversity data for academic research, and these data are useful and essential to predict future biodiversity changes and drop up the guideline for development policies related, for example, to nature conservation. Here there are some examples that we know very well, like of informatic infrastructure, like EVA, the European Vegetation Archive, grass plot, plot that collect vegetation plot at global scale, but also it's very important and very used GBIF for species record, and also specialized database like TRI that is about the plant traits. So, but another part of this biodiversity data is usually this data, the species occurrence, the information of this data are based in old record from herbaria, natural history collection, or scientific literature, and there is a gap of this updated data, fresh data, due to associated with the insufficient fund for taxonomy or biodiversity inventory project. And this was very well described by this Krishy et al. In this paper, The End of Botany, where they talk about the causes of the decline of traditional botanical science. So the problem to collect, there is a problem to collect fresh data. So other authors think that photograph can be treated as a scientific record if they fulfill specific requirement, like, for example, the date, the collector, or or who shot the photo, the author of the photo, and the locality of the photo. So following this, in this period, many citizen science tools. This citizen science tool, like this one, iNaturalist, that is the famous one, we can consider that like a structured citizen science tool, in which people like naturalists, citizen science, or biology put their observation in the field, and was incredible because in few years there was inside this iNaturalist 61 million observations that are in the 300, more than 300,000 species with a lot of identificator and observer. So, but there are the possibility, there are other biodiversity data inside this social network, like for example Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And this idea to use this data, biodiversity data from social network was explored already by this author Chamberlain, that described a bit how the potentiality of this data, but also were used in many other papers to fulfill some simple query, like for example to complete the distribution of some species. Here there are two examples of this paper, but also in Facebook group, where some author found new species, as in this case, for example, Drosera magnifica, that was described by, was discovered on Facebook actually, or these data were used to quantify tourism in protected area, and here there are other two papers that treat this aim. But today I want to fix our attention in a specialized Facebook group that we can consider like a Attractor, a citizen science tool. This specialized Facebook group in the last year growing very fast, and there are a lot of this group here. There are some examples, but and in particular we studied this group from Sicily that the name is Flora Spontanea Siciliana, and treat about the wild flora of Sicily. This group born in 2010, and after 9 years there was like more than 20,000 members, and is administrated by 11 administrators that are experts in flora of Sicily. The great point of this group that usually have this specialized Facebook group is the strict rule that they have, because the user can shot the photo, and for example vascular plant taken in Sicily in natural habitat, the cultivated species are not accepted, so we cannot post shot and post the eggplant or tomato from the garden of our grandma. And the strict rule, and also the strict rule are that you have to put the date and the locality of the photo. This is very important, and usually this information are in the first two posts. So the user posts the photo with the name of the locality and the date of the photo, and also the user can try to determine the species, to identify the species, writing the name. And in the second post, every time there is the identification and correction or confirmation of the administrator. So what do we do? So Facebook has a problem that not support application programming interface. So it's difficult to to access to the data. So we had to do a data scraping procedure. So, but the data scraping was very simple because, as I told before, there are the information that we needed were in the two first posts. So where there are the username, date, locality, scientific name of the species. And then there was another problem because also Facebook does not support geotagging, while in other digital platform like Instagram and Flickr is possible. So we have to linking the location gave by the user with the toponymic map of Sicily. So, but one extract was we were impressed because there was inside like 20,000 photos or 20,000 information, and the 68% of this image was identified at species level, and 7% at genus level, and 25% was unidentified photo. So the aim, so we had this huge number of data, and we're thinking that the first thing was we have to analyze this data and try to see which kind of data are these one. So the first aim of our project was to compare data proceed from a Facebook group and compare them with data from a data set created by scientists to see which were the difference in species and also in plant trait. And the second aim was about the behavior of amateur botanists, the characteristic of amateur botanists that go in the field. So the first paper is a Facebook group citizen science tool for plant species monitor, and we are happy and proud to announce it was accepted in the Journal of Applied Ecology. So as I told before, we used the data from Facebook and the data from a scientific created by for scientific purpose, and we compared them using as a background the flora of Sicily. You use it for Facebook 70,000 records that correspond more or less to 1,700 species, and forever we used a data set extracted from Sicily with that correspond to more or less 6,000 vegetation plot and more or less 120,000 record and the same number of species that we collected in Facebook. And as background, we use the flora of Sicily, extracted by, the list was extracted by the flora of Italy, that include 3,000 vascular plant species, and more or less 500 are naturalized or casual aliens. So the aim of this paper was first of all we addressed these two questions. The first question was are plant species and lineages in Sicily represented different in Facebook and EVA dataset? And the second question was do traits of the species collected in Facebook and EVA dataset differ between each other from the entire flora of Sicily? So to respond to the first question, we used two tools implemented in R, the megaphylogeny and the nodesing function. and we compare the species. So, and this is the phylogenetic tree of the flora of Sicily, and as you see here, there is the blue one and the species intercepted by Facebook. The green one are intercepted by Eva, and purplish intercepted by Facebook and Eva, and in gray no one species intercepted. So this analysis told us, indicated us the lack or clear phylogenetic signal for species in this data set. So, but when we analyzed by noticing the family and the genus with overrepresented in Facebook and in Eva, we saw that there are only 3 families that are overrepresented in both datasets, and are Fabaceae, Borraginaceae, and Ranunculaceae. This why this inside I will talk a bit of some family, not all this family, but for example, for Fabaceae, 4 genera of this family were overrepresented in Facebook dataset, in particular Trifolium, Lupinus, Genista, and Chitisus. And there is an explanation why in Facebook people collect more Trifolium, for example, because the Trifolium is very quite spread in Sicily, and also one of the administrators of this Facebook group is an expert of Trifolium, so he pushed in this direction. And also other explanation for Lupinus, Genista, and Chitisus that are they have very showy flower, so they catch the attention of the Facebook user. But also regarding Fabaceae, we found that Genista and Chitisus are also overrepresented, for example, in Eva, because usually Chitisus genista are genera that include shrub or dwarf shrub that define the vegetation type through their dominance in the Mediterranean. And this, for example, is a nice community in the upper part of the Madonie mountain. The name is Genistetum cupani, and this is the Genista cupani. So then I will talk about this family that are Aristolochiaceae, Marilidaceae, Asteraceae, and Primulaceae that are overrepresented in Facebook. Because the reason is are very showy, and usually this family have unusual shaped flower, like for example Aristolochia, that catch the attention of untrained eyes. And also, as expected, Orchidaceae are the family most frequent recorded by the Facebook user. Because orchids are very common target for amateur botanists, and also but on the contrary, they are very less frequent in sample, for vegetation sample, because it's difficult to identify the species if not in bloom, and so usually in the sample it's at genus level. But then other 2 families that are very common, frequently recorded by Facebook user are Oxalidaceae and sorry, is not Primulaceae, Aizoaceae, that include many species, many alien species. So the reason why this family are so overrepresented in Facebook is probably related to the alien species usually are escaped from garden, and they have a very showy flower. But we think is not the only reason why these species are so recorded by Facebook user, and it's more related to, we think, to the blooming. In fact, in Mediterranean, usually the blooming period is in spring and autumn. But the alien species in Mediterranean usually have early flowering or late flowering. So it happens that during the winter, this is the landscape of Sicily during the winter is totally green, while in summer is totally yellowish. So what's happened during this, for example, in winter, when the landscape is totally green, start to flower this at the end of February. This Oxalis pescapre, that is an alien species from South Africa that was recorded for first time in Maltese Island, and then spread for all the Mediterranean area, and it's very invasive because it has vegetative propagation by bulbs. And as you see in this photo, during the winter, when it's totally green, it's the only species in flower. And this is connected by this this theory of plant blindness described by these two authors. That they told that people usually in the field look for animal, and the landscape is and the vegetation is the matrix in which animal are living for normal people. So they don't see the difference, but just see the difference when there is something that is as in this case very very colorful, and is a contrast in the background. So all in this case the people can perceive these species. And this also example, this another example of plant blindness is also related to this Moraceae family, because Moraceae are also very spread in Sicily, because there is a Ficus carica. But in this case, the people are showing a lot of picture of Macrura pomifera, that is also an alien species from North America, and this species has some fruit that is totally different from the fruit, Mediterranean fruit that we know, because it's a big sorosio, green and rounded. So people are very attracted by this species. While in contrast, if we see the height, the species overrepresented in Neva, there are Poaceae that are very common, because Poaceae are very common Mediterranean. So in the sampling occur very frequent, but doesn't occur in Facebook because these are usually very teeny plants and difficult to photograph that don't catch the attention of Facebook user. And also another important family, represented family in Eva is Fagaceae, that in this case, as in the previous case of Genista and Chitisus, is the dominant tree of are the dominant tree or many type of vegetation that usually are sampled by vegetation scientists in Sicily. And here there is a nice example of Faus sylvatica in the higher part of Madonie mountain in Sicily. So we saw that looking for the family and genus, there are very different in genus and family recorded by Facebook user and by professional botanist of Heva. But also this difference are also if we look for the traits. Usually plant species traits were used by ecologists to understand the ecosystem functioning. But in this study, plant traits, we used the plant traits to understand the preference of user in choosing the subject to photograph. And we choose 5 type of trait group, trait attractor. Trait flower attractor, vegetative attractor, ethnobotanical attractor, biogeographical attractor, and conservation attractors. And all these traits were taken were profit from Flora d'Italia. And we first of all we plotted these traits, this plant trait in this to define the trait space of the Sicilian flora, and we used as a variable the frequency of Eva and the frequency of Facebook. And in this case, you can see that the frequency of the species collected in Eva and collected in Facebook has less than 10%, indicated that the species found in FSS and Eva are relatively well distributed in the trait space of the Sicilian flora. But if we look in deep to the attractor, we saw that in this case, for example, flower attractor, we saw very difference between the percentage of species recorded in Facebook and in Eva, and compared to our background that is the flora of Sicily. So in this case, as expected, in Facebook, the showy species are more represented than in Eva. The color more represented in Eva dataset are the brown, black, and the green, because of course for Poaceae and Fagaceae. While in Facebook, people prefer a more purplish flower, and this was explained already by Eula and Freg, that told in this paper what flower do we like, that purplish is the most attractive flower color for human. So, but the other things interesting was and why there is this high frequency of purplish flower also in Eva. we found explanation in this paper of Menzel and Smida that they analyzed the color vision of the insect pollinator in Israel in two ecosystems, Mediterranean and the desert. And they found that the color vision of the species by the insect is mainly U, B, and B that correspond to this to our vision, to human vision, purplish. So that's mean probably that in Mediterranean most of species, the frequency of species with purplish flowers is higher because they have more chance by to be pollinated by, in this case, Hymenoptera. So, and this is a very nice topic to study, I think. Then we saw for vegetative attractor, but in this case, spiny immaculate leaf doesn't have any significance, but as I told before, of course, in Facebook there are more herb, and while in EVA dataset more annual species that are not recorded by so much by Facebook user. And also, as I told before, the bulb species are more frequent in Facebook, mainly for the orchids that are a very nice topic for amateur botanists. And finally, we analyzed the biogeographical and conservation attractor. In this case, as you see in this graph, the Facebook collect more endemic and red list species than EVA, and this is not surprising because endemic or red list species already are mainly orchids, or there are species very frequent along the road. For example, in like the Euphorbia Scarpa, or Latirus odoratus, that are very common and very showy and easy to be shot. But what is nice, it's that also alien are shot by Facebook user, and in the sample of EVA dataset there are very few alien species respect to EVA. This also because alien species are, as I told before, ornamental plants, very showy, and the people go there to take picture, but also for this plant blindness. And in EVA are not so common because I think the releve from we processed are from 80 and 19. And during this period, the vegetation scientists of Sicily were describing the vegetation of Sicily, so they prefer natural habitat. But what is incredible that alien during this in the Facebook group, the user found 7 new alien species for the Sicilian flora. Here there are some examples, and also by the Facebook there was the recent confirmation or new site of rare species in Sicily, like this Anemone palmata, Ipome imperati, Iuris juncia. So the main conclusion of this first topic is that Facebook and EVA dataset collect the same number of species, But Facebook include more species with the showy flower and more alien species than ever. So this demonstrates that data from social network could complement data from scientific research because the data are very complementary. And in particular, we can use this data for monitoring population dynamic of trained alien species or as a source of additional data occurrences for rare species, in particular, for example, for orchids that are very common in Facebook dataset, and also to study early warning system for potential new invasion and for phenological study. But the main problem in Facebook until now is that we don't have a easy data access, so maybe this part would be implemented to have more easy access to this data and also the geotagging. But we go for a second paper that was centered by to the behavior of amateur botanists in the field. Because why this topic? Because amateur botanists have always been essential to improve their herbarium collection, species identification, and species conservation. And they usually did a parallel work they worked in parallel with the professional botanist. So in this case, we used three data sets. One was a naturalist, Facebook, and EVA data set. The first two data sets were chosen because there are their amateur botanists, and the EVA was chosen because there are professional botanists. So we collected the observation of these three data sets, and we plotted in ArcGIS, and we overlapped the distribution of the plot with the grid of 10 por 10 kilometers. Then we filtered the dataset and we removed the record with the same ID, date, and author to have just one sample with this characteristic. Then we asked, our question were if there any difference between the amateur botanist that's contributing to a naturalist and Facebook, which habitats amateur and professional botanists tend to visit the most, and do they change the target habitat through the year? And the final question was, do amateur and professional botanists visit the protected area more often than non-protected area? So to respond at the first question about the typology of the user in Nine Naturalists and FS and Facebook, sorry, we use the temporal activity of each member as a proxy of their interest and motivation in producing and sharing information about the flora of Sisi. In this case, we used a time span from 2014 and 2019 from both data sets, and the number of visits of each member, and we calculate this rank of activity, that is the number of visits of each member multiplied by the temporal activity that expressed as difference between the first and the last date associated with a posted photo, divided by the total number of visits in each data set. We plotted this in this graph, and as you see, in iNaturalist and Facebook, there are, sorry, first I have to explain what is this rank activity. So we did five classes that are singleton, scarce, infrequent, frequent, and constant. So the singleton are the members that visit a location just one, and the constant are the people that visit the place with the high number of visits. So in this case, as you see, the constant and the frequent are very less respect to the rest of the user. And we define these the singleton, scarce, infrequent people user as occasional user, and the constant and frequent as experienced user. So it's very nice that the experience collect about in one case 40% in iNaturalist, and the other case like 25%, but all the other photos are made by occasional botanists, so they contribute a lot to this data set, and it's quite important this, because we can define the experienced botanist as the amateur, the which one are followed by the occasional botanist. Because occasional botanists identify experienced botanists like people that know very well the territory, people that can explain about the flora. So, but the contribution of occasional is more than the experienced one. So then we see if there was some spatial temporal trend using the number of visits per day, and we plotted here also the monthly mean precipitation and the temperature, and we saw that the people, the user usually are going to the field in spring, and but after some year, if you look at this graph, they start also to grow in autumn, while this orange line is represent the iNaturalist user, and as you see, is very barely used iNaturalist in Sicily. Just in 2017 there was a peak, and they start to grow a bit respect to the past. And this is because this 2017 maybe was also the period in which there was an increasing of the tourism in Sicily. So maybe is related this peak of naturalists in 2017 to this peak. So then we analyze also the spatial temporal trend in the three dataset, and we calculate the environmental space of Sicily using this environmental variable, in particular habitat, geomorphological class, protected area, elevation, coastline, rivers, and main road. And the result was a matrix of 1,200 observation described by 53 variables. And we ran a principal component analysis and to define the the environmental space of Sicily. And here there is this the environmental the principal component analysis that show the environmental environmental space of Sicily, and these are the 6 more important variable. We have extensive cultivation and olive groves in the upper part that are correlated with the neogene soil, and then in the left part we have the elevation correlated with this vegetation supra-Mediterranean deciduous thickets, and then in the lower part there is the coastal area, mainly related to shifting and embryo dune. So here I will show you some picture of how does it look the Sicily, this upper part, this extensive cultivation with olive tree, as you see in this photo, and also this weed cultivation. This is the mainly landscape of Sicily in the center of the central Sicily. Also here, as you see, mainly cultivated with cultivation, and here some coastal dune in the southern east coast of Sicily, this Torre Salsa, with this vegetation dominated by Eucanthus. Or these are the scree in the northern part of Sicily. And if you look at this nice picture, because I want to show you this this grass. This is Cenculus ciliaris, an alien species that is replacing all the grass of Ampelodesma, native grass of Ampelodesma mauritani. Is a very aggressive alien species. Or also here in the other natural habitat in the Up Madonie mountain with this Cacris ferulacea in flower, or this Peroritani mountain, or this shrub vegetation dominated by Erica multiflora in Marettimo Island during a cloud day, or also this formation Quercus gussone, endemic Quercus in Sicily, in Rocca Busambra mountain. So what we did with this environmental space, we plot inside, we plot the number of visit, and we saw that Eva, in this case, as you see, going in a particular area, so they decide the place to go, usually professional botanists. But also here, there is they cover iNaturalist and Facebook cover the same environmental space. But as you see, the visit, the number of visit is in iNaturalist main in coastal area, or with this red one, while in Facebook is maybe everywhere in the environmental space. So if you look also the distribution of the visit by season, we saw the previous result confirm what I told, that in winter and spring there are no difference, but then in summer, as you see, Facebook group, professional botanists go to the upper part of the mountain, while in summer iNaturalists are more attracted by coastal area. And this also the seasonal distribution about the visit in inside and outside the protected area. As you see in this graph, iNaturalist and Eva have the people from iNaturalist and Eva go to the to visit the protected area, while this is not frequent for Facebook user. So, and finally, we decide to see which habitat, which are the habitat preference for inside this group. So to assess which habitat type were more frequently, we weighted the area occupancy of each habitat by their number of visits in this way. So this is the number of visits for each grid cell, and SJ is the area occupancy of each habitat in Sicily, and again, and V is the number of visits in the total number of visits in each dataset. And we found that this is the percentage difference in percentage, and this is the effective percentile area occupancy of given habitat in Sicily. And we saw that, as you see, this most interesting that Facebook and naturalist people are going to the near the urban area, while Eva no. Eva people are mainly going to the natural habitat, to visit natural habitat. But also, if you see this orange one, also iNaturalist people usually prefer go to natural habitat more than Facebook user. And the other important result is this one. If you look at this volcanic ash and lava field, in the tree, and mainly in iNaturalist, there is a positive percentage change, but also in Eva and in Facebook. This is why Mount Etna is a very nice destination for local people, tourists, and scientists, and because it's one of the most attractive area in the world, and we have to consider that there are many endemic species that could be an important attractor for tourists. For example, here there is the Genista etnensis or the Betula etnensis, and this is a nice picture of Bove Valley with in the spring with the Anthemis etnensis in flower. So, which conclusion for this other topic? Our study revealed that both iNaturalist and Facebook consist in few active users with prolonged constant activity in many occasional active users. In general, iNaturalists, as you see, are more international than the Facebook user, and usually they go in protected area more often than Facebook. And there is, in some way, iNaturalist is similar. The user of iNaturalist are more similar to professional botanist. Which is the main conclusion that this group have to be coordinated, need to be coordinated at the regional level. And iNaturalist, if well coordinated, could be an ideal tool for field data collection, species occurrences. But sometimes I want to spend some minutes for this aspect about the regional administrator, because it's very important, because sometimes for example, if you look at this species Calluna vulgaris, was collected in was shot, this photo was shot in Sicily, but if you look at the photo, is a clear Calluna vulgaris come from a shopping center in Syracuse. So, but usually people, I mean, there are this kind of error, or also this Limonium carolinianum that was also in Syracuse shot by some American tourists because it spread in the eastern coast of United States. So why this? Because we have to pay attention about the data that are inside this group, because botanist is science, not improvisation. So, and also I have doubts about this research great observation of iNaturalist that go directly in GBIF. So people can use like data, this Caluna vulgaris, maybe from the shopping center of Syracuse. And this is very strange that when the community has a multiple opinion on what taxon has been observed, iNaturalist choose a taxon from all the proposed taxa that more than two-thirds of voters agree with. So this is very strange because I think in botany this ballot I think is not quite scientific, because sometimes could happen like in Sicily that this is part of the limonium that we are in Sicily, and there are several more. So the question is this limonium without know the territory are also difficult to identify by expert botanists. So in this case, a ballot I think is quite strange, and I want to leave you with this controversial question: would you eat a mushroom whose identification is the result of a ballot? Maybe no, because sometimes could happen this. Thank you for the attention. I would like to thanks to all my co-authors of this paper, and mainly the core team of this paper was Riccardo, Milan, and Pado. Thank you.
Thank you, Corrado, for a nice presentation.
Thank you.
I guess that there will be a lot of questions and comments. So I will ask you, if you have any question, please raise your hand, or if there is a possibility, there is a tool. Yeah, Milan is the first one, so Milan.
Yeah, I ask. I know the analysis, but have you ever counted the number of hours that you, the administrators of this group, spent in plant identification, let's say per year? So how time-consuming this activity is? Because you collected an excellent data set, one of the best botanical data sets in Sicily. But
no, you mean the time that people are spending, the administrators are spending in?
Yes, the 11. The 11
I think it's
whether you have ever counted this time?
You mean, I think it's difficult to calculate this time. Maybe a survey could be a solution, because I think it's by this data I think it's not possible. I mean, maybe a survey would be a solution.
So may I have a question to the first part of your presentation, to the disproportion between plants which are in Facebook group and those in EVA. Do you think about some motivation of people to also focus on some less shiny species like the grasses? I don't know, something like competition, who will take a photo of some grass or something like that? Or do you want to somehow change the opinion of people, or just you collect what there will be?
Yeah, maybe it's this Facebook group maybe are very nice also to learn. So, but I don't know effectively how much people change their mind and start to collect other type of species. But maybe yes. But as I show in the graph, there are many occasional botanists, and there are many that have a single tone that usually just for fun, they do some photo, but are not following. But maybe could be happen. This I think is what they call social learning. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
So you
possible.
showed to them the results. So maybe based on that result, they will also try to find another type of plants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you also observed that you learned, that you taught people to go outside for plants also in autumn, because as far as I remember, when you started, like most people were going out in spring, and you showed them that there are also interesting species flowering in autumn in the Mediterranean. So the number of contributions from autumn increased, maybe because of your activity.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I think yes, because it's clear in this graph that after 2016 there was an increase there is an increased number of people going to the field in autumn. So maybe they learn that there are also species flowering in autumn. It's a nice period to shot photo. Yeah.
Another? Are there any questions or comments? So you showed that there was a peak in 2017. So is it possible that there will be peak in the last year? Because, for example, in Czech, people should stay at home, so only activity which is possible is to go into the nature. So is it also something like that in Sicily?
Yes, I think this peak of Inatura is. I told. I don't know if I was, but I told that Inatura is barely used in Sicily. So, but we noticed that there was a peak in 2017, but also Facebook there was this peak, but maybe it's related to the tourism in Sicily that in 2017 increased a lot. So maybe people from abroad that usually are using very usually are use iNaturalist, so mainly tourists, went in Sicily and shot photo and put in this Sicily project, I think. But would be an explanation, yes. But for Facebook, I don't know why there was the peak. Maybe just because people had fun with this Facebook group, so they decide to post and shot more photos, maybe.
Okay. People are shy today. So no one? Yeah, Ricarda.
Hi, Ricardo.
Hi, Corrado. Thanks for your very nice talk. That was interesting. I'm myself an iNaturalist user, so that was super nice to hear and to see this analysis about it. So there are some professional botanists around, but I see we are not that many. I was wondering about data quality. So if you said already with the example of limonium that it could be, or it's most probable that there are many mistakes in that data set, right?
Yeah.
So my question would be, do you think on the basis of the pictures and also on the distribution of plants, if you would have the time, would it be possible to increase the quality of data just on the basis of the pictures people take?
You mean if limonium, for example, in the case of limonium, if you have locality, I don't understand very well your question, sorry.
So you have the pictures, for example, from iNaturalist or from Facebook, and then you as a professional botanist just take those pictures and the coordinates and try to ID it properly. So how big is the chance to do that, do you think?
But I think it's possible, yeah.
On species level, you mean in most cases?
Yeah, but the problem is, for example, in the case of the limonium, you have a lot of limonium there. So you have to know also the flora, but if you are a botanist, you know the flora, of course, but you have to know also the territory, because many of these species are very localized. So if you send a picture, there are without any morphological character, I think it's quite difficult to reach the species level. But if you know the locality, because you know that in this part of Sicily there is this limonium, I think you have the possibility to reach a species level. But because and this is the importance of local expert, but because in this case they know very well the territory, and also good botanists, but from another part of the Italy that maybe doesn't know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Milan.
You were mentioning this ballot identification in iNaturalist. There is also identification by artificial intelligence that is currently uploaded to GBIF. So we have this GBIF, this global database of species distributions, global biodiversity information facility. And like originally there were data by professional botanists or zoologists based on herbarium collections and scientific literature. But recently they started to upload these iNaturalist ballot-based data there, and also data from PlantNet, which is this application where you have a mobile phone and you take a picture and you compare it with the database using some image analysis, and it identifies your species. I would say it's surprisingly good. It often gives you like very good tip for what species it can be. But like certainly it's not reliable identification, I would say. And they now uploaded all this to GBIF. So I'm afraid it's a bit compromising the quality of GBIF data. When you are using GBIF, you can select the data sets that you are interested in. So like if you really want to use data for some scientific analysis or something that should be reliable, first thing you need to do is to exclude iNaturalist dataset and GBIF dataset, I would say.
Yeah, I think so, because no, so this this application that you're talking about, it's work, but a friend of mine from Oviedo, Alvaro Bueno, told me that it's very useful to when you go like in Thailandia or something there, because all the genus that that you have there are cultivated in Europe, so it's very good for this stuff. But just at family or genus level, I think. And also happened with me that I used this plant net. Yes, I shot one picture of Anthemis cupaniana in some part of northern Sicily, and I sent to them, and they told me another name of the species. So sorry, I'm from Sicily and botanist. I have identified correct this species. I don't know. Yes, this data from that was the conclusion of my presentation, because I mean, a botanist. All these instruments are very nice, but botanist is a work. People have to prepare themselves for during his life. So go to the field, collect, determine. It's not just take a picture. This is like a trivialization of the botany, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, Ricardo, you have a comment? Mm-hmm. Please turn your microphone on.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. I have a small comment on the last point raised by Milan, because it is certainly true that these tools are surprisingly good, provided that for a given place you have a critical amount of reliable information. It means reliable in terms of geotagging and reliable in terms of plant species identification. There it works quite well. Even tools like Google Lens, which are based on the automatical recognition of images, can work quite well if you have a critical amount of spatially well-distributed data and accurately geotagged data. But the problem is that there are some limits, because plants which can be identified, plant species, I mean, which can be identified by tiny, small characters, will never probably be identified from a photograph. So they are surprisingly good in identifying the genus. Think of Capsella rubella and Capsella bursa pastoris, for instance. If you don't have a very good photo of the fruit, it's impossible to identify them. Think of the many pulmonaria species, or even the limonium species. Well, the limonium, the location, as Corrado was saying, is helping a lot. But the limits, the real limit of these tools and devices is basically related to the difficulty of portraying accurately the diagnostic characters. So there is still a lot of work that has to be done in this sense. But they are surprisingly good in identifying the family, sure, and the genus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The funniest story about the whole presentation of Corrado is that the idea to run this project was to organize a kind of beauty contest about the Mediterranean plants, to see which was the most beautiful one based on the people's opinion. But we ended up that we have no answer after so many analyses. Basically, as it happens for humans, perhaps even for plants, it's difficult to define in univocal way, an univocal definition of beauty. It's difficult to achieve an univocal definition of beauty, because beauty is a combination of traits, quality, shape, color, form. And so we ended up with a bit of disappointment because the very initial question is still unanswered. But we are very happy that we did these papers.
Yeah, they are great. It's better to have more beauty plants than just one.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Of course.
So there is another question by Eva.
Yeah. Hi, Corrado. Thank you for nice talk. I have one question. Do you know something about the Natura City Challenge, this competition?
Sorry.
If you know the Natura City Challenge.
Sorry, there was some problem with the microphone. I didn't have.
Sorry. I have one question. If you know the competition, the Natura City Challenge. It's done or organized by the iNaturalist, and it's some competition for the cities to people to go out and find as much species as possible. So I have some idea that you can organize something like this in Sicily and push for example, students or I don't know, the people to go out in the nature and take pictures of as many species as possible, and maybe you can have more data for your study.
Yeah. It's nice. I didn't know this.
It's I think it's every year, and in the whole world, and here in Czech Republic, it's Brno and Praha is in this competition, and it's I think for 1 week or 1 weekend or 1 week to people go out and take pictures and make competition.
But they can go everywhere or just in some.
Oh, this competition is for cities, I think, but you can modify it for the whole Sicily for I don't know 1 week or 1 month or.
Okay. So these data are very useful, very good for Zenk, I think.
Yeah, but you can organize your own competition.
If we will use all the data of all the people, or just to have some, if we will check the quality of the data. So still we are thinking about that, and yeah.
But I think the people like competition and taking pictures, so I think it's a good opportunity to do that. Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
Yes, Sonia added a link to those competition because it's now, I think it's approaching the term for this one. But it is not just to the plants, but it is focused on all the species living in the city. Yeah. And the cities compete which city is more species rich. This is a very simple idea. So, do we have some other question or comments? Corrado, you said that you can use the data also for some phenological studies, I guess. So, so what will be aim of such a study?
You mean that I told before about blooming, about because there was you can do there are two I think a good tool, a good study would be to analyze this color of plants, maybe in different biome or ecoregion, and to see which are the dominant color. But maybe it's a nice study. I don't know if there is some study like that or not. And also the data from this Facebook, yes, we could be used for study with related to climate change, to see if there is some change in flowering during the years. I don't know, through the years, something like that.
Yes, so this is some ideas for some usage of the data. So your very last chance. Sorry, I can't read your name, so please, you have your chance to ask. I have to take my glasses. Sorry, can you read the name?
Jury.
Please.
I will. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Thank you so much. I'm really sorry that I've lost the really first part. I would have loved to listen all the presentation, but I sent an email to the Professor Marcenò, so he will know.
Thank you,
Corrado. What I'm talking about. But I really, when I read the title of this event, I was really exciting because for Sardinia and with Professoressa Simonetta Pagella, we always dream to use Facebook groups as an important pool of information related to plants. Since 2017, we did an abstract with the title Facebook group of Facebook as an instrument of I don't know how to say in English, but of citizen science and divulgazione. How to use? Come si dice divulgazione in inglese? I don't know. Anyway, to educate. Dissemination. Thank you so much. And at the end, last year, thanks to Facebook group, we had the opportunity to record it for the first time for Italy and Sardinia, a new alien species. And also the same year, thanks to the Facebook group, another alien species was recorded, because an amateur, a normal person who loves plants, put a picture in the group, and people help them to recognize which plant was. So I really think that what you are doing is a good way to make this group a useful source of citizen science and so many other things.
Yeah, thank you.
So
now we just think to analyze which kind of data were inside, but as I told, it's quite difficult because to have the access to this data, because you need to do this data scraping procedure. It is not so easy, so and it's quite complicated, but maybe it's not our fault, but maybe in the future Facebook will give some implementation to have access to these data that I think are important, also if are administered by local experts.
I added to the chat channel the link to the YouTube channel where the presentation will be available. So there are all the presentation of our department, half in Czech, half in English, but you can find there what is interesting for you. So if there are no other comments, so once again, many thanks, Corrado, for your presentation. It was an interesting topic. Thank you all of you for being here. And the next presentation, the next week, Milan will have a presentation. It will be in Czech, and it will be about the UNI's habitat type, the classification of UNI's habitat type, but in Czech for the Czech people. So have a nice day and see you.
Thank you. Bye.